Hello and welcome to the Bikes or Death podcast. My name is Patrick and I'm your host. This is a show that talks about bikepacking, adventuring, and the cool people who participate. On this episode, I have Vince Colvin, who is one of the owners of CHUMBA USA. They are a bike manufacturer based out of Austin, Texas. All their bikes are made in USA, and most of them are made by Mark, their one and only frame builder, in their shop in Austin, Texas. I met Vince at his house, and he had two single-speed CHUMBAs set up. He was on his Sendero, and he set up his Stella Tie for me to ride, and he showed me around some of the Austin trails, some that I'd never ridden before. It was really neat. We just rode straight from his house, hopped on some trails, rode around for a couple hours. And by the way, Vince shreds. He shreds. So he doesn't just build really neat bikes. He actually rides them too, which is great. But no, we had a great time. It was my first time riding single speed since I was like a kid and on a BMX bike. We're going to talk about that more in the show, so I won't really get into that right now. And afterwards, Vince bought me some tacos at a local taco joint, and it was real proper. We ended up at his house afterwards and recorded a podcast, and that's what you're about to hear. So before we get to that, let me just say that this intro and the outro are being recorded on a brand new digital recorder that I just purchased. It was purchased 100% with funds that I've received through Patreon and merchandise sales. And just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has supported the show. This is your money going right back into the show and helping it to grow, be more better. Be mo better. Really excited about it, and just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has supported the show. If you're listening for the first time, you won't hear me talk a lot about how to support the show. I do that afterwards. So if you're interested in supporting the show, you'll notice that the show doesn't have any sponsors, no advertisers. It's just me talking to you, trying to grow a bikepacking community. And if you want to help be a part of that, stick around after the show and we'll talk about that a little bit. For now, all I ask is if you listen to the show and you're getting something out of it, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. It's hugely impactful whenever it comes to helping people find the show. If you want to hear more, stick around after the show. But for now, here's Vince. All right, today I am in Austin, Texas with Vince from CHUMBA. I mean, as a company, y'all been on my radar for a long time, but like whenever I came here with Jared Foster and we rode out of Pace Bend, I was mentioning to him back then that I was hoping to get an opportunity to interview you. So I'm glad that I finally got an opportunity. I've been a big fan of like your company and everything y'all been doing. You make some beautiful bikes. And so it was really cool for me to get to ride one finally and interview you and like talk about CHUMBA. So I'm pretty excited to be here. Yeah.
Well, and I'm pretty impressed with the high quality caliber lineup of people you've been interviewing. So really grateful to be among those amazing people.
You know, it's a weird thing. I keep asking them and they keep saying yes.
Yeah, right. No, it's been great to see like someone spending the time to illustrate the stories of those individuals for sure, and get that out there in a different way. It's a little more open-ended and, you know, honest than other media options could be potentially. Yeah, well, we were talking about that too earlier. It's like Alexandra is a perfect example. Like, and for those that don't know, Alexandra Houchin, just on the podcast, definitely worth a listen. CHUMBA sponsors Alexandra. And we were talking earlier about how she's been my most popular podcast to date. And it's just funny because like she doesn't have Facebook, she doesn't have Instagram. She's wearing steel-toe boots. She's just wearing street clothes. There's no helmet. Like she is completely not what you picture when you think top-level athlete. Mm-hmm. But she is.
But she is.
Yeah.
And it just speaks to like, it seems like people are just craving authenticity. You know, cut the crap, quit trying to sell me something. Obviously you're selling bikes, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, it doesn't always have to be sell me something, you know?
No,
like,
it doesn't. It's more about what's the story and who are you and why are you, what's your motivation? And those are the things that really
kind of compelling, and especially compelling about her.
Yeah. So what was it like for you watching Alexandra on the Tour Divide this year?
Well, both years. I mean, it's just so exciting watching any of our team out there on track leaders. It's like got to be one of like the best things, even watching customers out there on it, just like knowing that all the work that we put into their bikes, they're actually using them for what we made them for.
Right. I figure it's kind of like looking at watching one of your kids, like,
yeah,
it's like she's one of your riders, but then she's also on one of your builds that you built. So it's kind of like watching both of your children go off into the woods. And
yeah, it's really exciting because I mean, we develop pretty close relationships with the people on the team and our ambassadors, and, to understand like what their motivations are and what their goals are. And then to see them staying persistent and accomplishing them it's just thrilling to get to be a part of that. And, watching her progress every year has just been a total blast. I mean, this year, just even compared to last year, set aside all the things she accomplished, like on a personal level, like she knocked off like so many days off of her finish time. Like that's a massive accomplishment. And
yeah, and going from a geared bike to a single speed bike at that.
Right. And like not the easiest conditions for a Tour Divide either. So
yeah, it was a tough year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the front of the race showed that.
Yeah, no doubt.
The reason I wanted to talk about Alexandra is because I think that it probably speaks to like more of like your company, like the fact that Alexandra is Alexandra and she's not on social media, and she is kind of like, I don't want to use the word counterculture, but like she just doesn't fit the image that maybe most people have when they think of like a top level endurance rider or whatever, which is what I love about her. Like one thing I want to do is help break down those ideas that you need to look a certain way or ride a certain bike or whatever it may be to be able to participate. Like cycling should be fun. It should be inclusive. Anybody should be able to do it. And that's the culture that I want. And she just embodies that so well. So yeah, I'm really curious to hear y'all as a company, why y'all chose to endorse her or sponsor her. And
yeah. Well, really, I mean, all of the team riders that we have, they've all reached out to us, and Alexandra reached out to us, and, she, in a podcast that she had with you, she explains this in more detail, but, she reached out and told us about herself. She shared her blog with us. She told us what she was about, what she was going to try and accomplish. And at the time it was just, I'm looking for some support. Here's my story, and I'm going to go do Tour Divide. And, there was no like, oh, I'm going to go out and win it, and I'm going to set records, I'm going to do this. It was just like, I'm going to be a part of, bike packing culture, and are you interested in coming along with me for that? And, one of the great things about it is at that time that she approached us, we had been really trying to find and kind of put out into the universe that we wanted to grow the number of women on our team. Because previously, before that, I think we maybe had 2. And we just wanted the team to be a better reflection of like riding culture overall versus like kind of like what you said, like, we want to have a diverse team, both with the types of riders and how they ride and what their motivations are. So she fit like perfectly into that, where, she had a really unique story, and she had ambition, So we got her going the first year on a bike. She paid for it. We did the best we could on a good deal for her. And then, halfway through the tour, I texted her and was like, who are you? You're just amazing. Cause I mean, like, that first year, like her tactics and her, persistence, the way she was racing, the way she was riding, you could just watch her on track leaders and see that she was always just doing a little more and a little more. And, really appeared, very motivated. So it was really exciting to see. And then over the course of the years, we just, we've grown a deeper relationship with her. So
I think that's the question that everybody's asking. Who are you to Alexandra? It's like,
yeah. I mean, and, it's like, we have different team riders that have different personal goals. And some of them are racers, and some of them are bike packers, and some of them are, bike culture enthusiasts. So we kind of have a unique team. So like being a world record holder is definitely not a criteria that is something that we set out as like, you have to accomplish this, or that has to be a goal or a motivation, or that's not really what we're looking for. It's a massive bonus, and it's so exciting to see that. But what's the most important thing to us is that she set a goal and she accomplished it on our bike, and proved that our bike could help her accomplish her goal.
Yeah.
That goal could have been totally different, and we still would have been completely satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah. What a cool thing. I just kept thinking from your perspective to watch, not just her. I mean, you keep referencing, y'all have, I know, Josh Ewell, is that?
Yeah. He's actually just a customer, but.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A great guy.
Oh yeah. Well, he rides one of your bikes.
Yeah. Also very fast on a single
I thought
speed.
he was on your website for one of your riders, but I guess
we had him do a guest blog post because he did the AZT race this year and did really well.
Yes.
And it was he had the goal this year of doing the Triple Crown. And so I thought it would be interesting to have him come on and talk about how the AZTR went, but then also, how he was going to use that bike for accomplishing the Triple Crown. Because one of the things about that bike that he's on and that Alexander's on, the Stella Titanium.
And the one I rode today.
Yeah. It's just that it's so versatile. So we want like real world people to illustrate in authentic ways, like what our bikes can do versus just like pitching you a marketing video. Like these people are actually doing the stuff that we made the bike for.
Right.
And that's a more interesting way to talk about it than to make a marketing document.
Well, plus having a diversity of, I was about to say athletes, but just individuals that ride bikes makes a lot more sense because you're reaching a different demographics. You should say, oh, well, we're only going to do like endurance racers. Well, you're going to limit your reach there. But if you have a lot of diversity, humans are diverse. So it makes a lot of sense to not limit yourself in that way.
Yeah, it's worked really well for us. I mean, we definitely have like certain things we're looking for in team riders and certain things that we're not. But there's no like specific criteria that like someone has to meet. It's more like who are they and is it right? Is it the right? Is it the right fit? Are they going to be someone that we think will stay with us for a long time and we can build a relationship with, or is this just we're doing this for 2 races? Like we're not interested in that. Like it doesn't help us.
You have some pretty unique ideas about the way you want to run your business, like the riders that you want to endorse. And do you feel comfortable talking about advertising and how you don't pay for that?
Sure. Yeah. To be honest, like we have paid for it in the past, but we do very, very little. I mean, back when Neil and Lindsay were running Bike Packers Mag, we had a sidebar edit with them early on, which was really cool just to be able to advertise there, but also to be supporting them because they were really helping to develop the culture that we're all now like just thirsting and wanting more of and excited about. And the reason why we're having this talk probably.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we did some paid advertising with bikepacking.com for one of their sponsors for about probably about a year and a half, I think. And that was really cool working with them. But currently we were doing like expos and events, and we're sponsoring races and we're sponsoring riders, and we're not doing any paid advertising beyond the occasional $40 Instagram ad. That's about it.
The first time I met you, you told me a story about, I'll just say a company or a website that they reviewed one of your bikes for free, and then they came to you the next year and you had a new model, and I don't remember which one it was, and they were like, okay, that'll be $450, and you were like, no, I'm not gonna pay you to Like I thought that was good, you know, like.
Yeah. To this date, we have not paid for a single review. And, you know, what's cool is that, you know, CHUMBA is owned by 4 of us, and we all have really like the same values on like where we want the authenticity of the company to be, what's driving kind of like the quality of it. And so we're not willing to do anything to like sacrifice that, which goes to picking the right team riders, and, you know, definitely towards advertising too. Like we're not opposed to advertising when it's right. But there's other ways to do it that you can do too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk. That was a good segue into who makes up CHUMBA, because I'll just tell you my perception and versus the reality that I learned later. Like I don't know if this is good or bad for you. I think good, but like my perception of y'all was a pretty, I would say a mid-sized company, you know, like I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 employees and, you know, a big warehouse with lots of bikes and, you know, like I'll let you finish it. But what I found when I came to your shop was completely different. And I think for the better, you know.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Please.
Yeah, we're not like that at all.
No, you're not like that at all. So yeah, tell us who is CHUMBA? And
CHUMBA is literally 4 individuals. We're 2 families. So it's myself and my business partner, Mark, his partner, Maura, is our CFO, and then my partner, Michelle. So it's 2 families, 50% female owned, which is really cool too. And Mark is the person building all of our steel frames in-house all day, every day, and often into the night.
Yeah.
And I do all the front end and customer interfacing and all the like infrastructure stuff for the business. And then Michelle helps a lot with just our creative side, and is a great sounding board for us. She helps keep us on track, and she'll give us honest answer when we're doing something wrong, which is great.
That's good, yeah.
And then Maura has just like amazing business acumen. She's so smart. And so we've got like a team of 4 people who are all motivated, on the same page, and, you know, we're all passionate about making this work. So
let's talk more about Mark for just a second. So there's literally one guy making all the bikes.
Yeah, I'd like to see someone do a podcast on Mark, by the way.
I would love to. He's next.
All right,
line it up. I'll just get everyone at CHUMBA. Yeah, I mean, I owe you because you were the one who hooked me up with Alexandra. So I really appreciate that. That was so much fun to talk to her. Like I just can't get over. I'm itching to get another one with her. But Alexandra said that Mark is one of her favorite people on earth. So sounds like a good person to get to know. But yeah, I mean, like it's mind blowing that there's one guy building all the steel frames for your company.
Right.
How many frames is he? I have no concept. Like I don't like how long does one frame take to make? How about that?
It depends on the bike.
Right.
And it depends on how many times we've built it before, for sure.
Yeah.
So like the first time you go to do a prototype, it might take 30 hours, you know, but depending on the bike. And then after you narrow it down in production, I mean, most of our bikes are between 12 and 15 hours a bike to make. So, but it's not there's no like turn and burn, mentality to what we do. We literally are crafting each individual bike as though it's like a custom bike. There's no like big machine spitting out parts for us.
Definitely not.
Like we're bending it all, we're cutting it all, mitering it all, cleaning it so many times, doing all the welding, all the fixtures, all the jigs.
I guess that's
everything.
true. So like your shop is relatively small. I mean, it seems like it serves its purpose. There's a paint booth in the corner.
Well, that's actually our welding room.
Oh, the welding room. Sorry. Yeah. I'm curious, like, if your company grows, will you get another frame builder, or will y'all just keep Mark? And
well, it's something we talk about often because, we we operate pretty like extremely consistently on like a 4 to 5 week lead time. And with that, we've got it set up where, Mark is basically constantly building bikes.
Which is really good, by the way.
Yeah, a whole bike. And, 4 to 5 weeks for like, even if it's a complete, we're typically in there too. And then, you can pick your color, and we've got lots of customization options to choose from also. So it's not like you're getting a totally stock product and it takes that long.
Yeah.
Like there's things that we can do to make it more yours.
I actually want to talk about that in a second whenever you're done.
Yeah, that's been a really interesting part of the business to develop, for sure.
From an outsider's perspective, it seems like y'all are somewhere between like a custom shop and stock. This is what you buy. Like you're kind of like, this is our product, but you can do all these other cool things. So maybe
right.
I thought it'd be really neat if you could just walk us through like, all right, I want to buy a CHUMBA.
Oh, sure.
What does that look like? Hey, Vince, I want to buy a CHUMBA.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've kind of built it and evolved it over time. And like over the last year and a half, I'd say it's really gotten pretty refined. But the process is really where we don't have pre-configured bikes sitting in boxes that we have to sell to you. Okay. So instead, we have all the materials in stock to make any of our bikes in any size quickly. So the goal is more to discuss with our customers, our clients, what they want to accomplish. What is this bike meant for? What does it mean to them? What are they going to be doing with it? Sometimes people just want a bike that's fun to ride, and we're super into that. Mm-hmm. Other times they have been like planning to do Tour Divide, or they're traveling to New Zealand and they want to bring a bike and do all this stuff. And it could be anything. And what we try to specialize in is listening to those people and using the knowledge base that we have from our own, work ethic and years in the bike community, along with the knowledge base from our, extensive team testing on the bikes. We try to use all that knowledge to make appropriate suggestions or input for the builds that people are looking for. And then from there, we just kind of go back and forth, usually a couple of times, until we find what strikes a chord with them, and then we build it. So,
yeah.
But it's a really fun way to build, or it's a really fun way to run the business, because everybody's getting exactly what they want. And what the goal is that, the customer gets something that they're really proud to own. They already feel like it's their bike when it shows up. It's unique to them. It's catered towards them, and it's going to help them accomplish what they want to do. So to us, that means if we can craft like a high quality experience along, like a high quality buying experience alongside of a high quality product, that person will probably tell somebody else about us.
Yeah.
And that's how we do our advertising.
Well, that's how I met you, that's how I found out about CHUMBA, was through Luke Conlon.
Oh, yeah.
He has a Terlingua and a Stella tie.
Yeah.
I think that's all he has. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he had one. I'm like, CHUMBA, what's this? And I look up the what? Oh, ooh. And then, you meet some other people that have them. And, but yeah, that's how I found out about y'all. What about like all the paint color options? It seems like something y'all are doing now that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, we had a really different structure to the business a few years ago, where we had a couple options in stock at all times, and that was really limiting. So we always had to only work with those colors. Then you're kind of almost in that category where like, oh, we need to sell what we have.
Yeah.
And we didn't like that. It was like kind of getting away from what we wanted to do. And, we were often, because of like the fact that we're building these in-house, people were always like, well, can I get it in another color? Mm-hmm. And after saying no a couple of times, you realize we should just be saying yes.
Yeah.
And that it would be more fun. And, we'd be building more on the message of getting people what they want, getting them bikes that are unique to them. And it would just be more fun to build the bikes ourselves and like see them come out and be a part of that let people be a part of the creative process more. So yeah, we've been kind of developing it for a while now and just slowly adding more and more colors. And we've got a couple different levels for different types of processes we can do. And we're working on Cerakote options with the tie now, which is really cool. And we also do wet paint too. But what's interesting is, there's other steel companies out there that are charging, $800 to $1,000 more a frame, and you're getting a wet paint job with it. But it's the same materials that we're using, and it's made by probably someone in-house, and I hope as well. Maybe they're as good as Mark. I don't know. Mark's pretty phenomenal, so I can't help but brag on him. But we're letting people start at powder coat option, which is more durable than wet paint. And since we're mostly like a dirt-based company, durable is usually a good thing. Yeah. But powder coat's a lot less expensive than wet paint. So we've kind of grown it with a whole bunch of powder coat options. And then when somebody wants to do something like really refined and unique, we'll do that too. And then we approach those higher prices for that.
Well, that paint job on your Sendero that you were riding today was pretty sweet. Like in the garage, I couldn't really tell, but you got on the light and it just.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's powder coat, and that's like one of our level 2 options. So on that bike, we charge like $160 to add that to it.
Oh yeah. That's a good deal.
And then on, so.
Yeah. I think, for the customer, I think that's awesome, right? I mean, like you said, you're kind of having a hand in the creative process. You're getting the bike built that you want, so you feel good about it. But from your side as a business owner, I would assume that it's a lot more enjoyable than just like building the same bike every single day, the same color. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
well, yeah. I mean, as a company, like we now have like a much more diverse website and a much more diverse community of riders locally, all riding bikes that look completely different, but they're all branded with our product as CHUMBA. And then, it's just been more fun overall. But
that's what I love about riding bikes, and is that, again, going back to just breaking down those barriers. I mean, there's a million ways to do it, and the only thing that matters is the person that's riding the bike enjoys it and likes it, and so.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the best endorsements we get are when people refer us. So, I mean, letting you choose your color it's a simple thing. You think it might not be as important, but for a lot of people, it might be the difference of how long they keep that bike. We want people to keep it for a longer period of time.
Color matters more than maybe it should. Yeah, it's fun. But it's like, I guess we all like identify. It's like, okay, well, that represents my personality, whatever you think it is, like
totally
that bike. And if it's just a stock color, you're like, well, that one's not really, so I'm not going to buy it. And I've definitely done that before. It's like,
or it's like my buddies, I know 3 people that have that bike. Do I want to show up at the race and have the same?
Yeah,
we all on the same bike.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe you want a CHUMBA. All right, so let's. I'm curious. You're an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Are you professionally? Were you professionally trained as an artist, or go to school for it? I should say, or
I went to school 6 years for art, so I've got 2 art degrees. And I instructed for, I think, 12 years or 11 years.
So that was your life before bikes?
That was my life, like alongside bikes.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Well, that's kind of where I was curious, is how that has influenced your company.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. And I've been asked it before, and I haven't answered it well because it's kind of...
It's obscure.
It's obscure. Yeah, it's like, I needed more time to think about it, I guess.
Okay.
Which is a typical art response probably that you would hear. But the first thing you think of when you think of someone who's an artist is you think of someone who's creative. But what a lot of artists really are, and what how I evolved my practice of making artwork was that I'm someone who's really driven by process. So I'm fascinated with how things are made, fascinated with how to get from point A to point B, envisioning the work in my head and seeing it evolve to the final product. So in terms of how my art practice relates to what we've created at CHUMBA, it's really, I'm really fascinated with the concept of pouring yourself into something and making it extremely refined over a period of time. So, I'm interested in making the process from A to B. I've lost it. It's difficult to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, because it's to me, it's so much more than just like the idea of like, oh, it's you're creative. It's not really like that. I mean, definitely like there's a lot of creative problem solving. I think I have a different way of looking at issues that arise or production issues, all kinds of different things than someone without an art background might have. Art making's also got me really open to the idea of receiving criticism and taking feedback and trying to work through something to make it stronger. So, in a good art making practice, like you seek out and look for feedback, and the goal is to grow and to make something that's at a higher level of refinement than you could have without that feedback. So that kind of goes into like the thinking about how the team is involved and the thinking about how surrounding myself with the partners that I have has helped me build my portion of the business stronger by using their feedback to grow.
Yeah. So it's almost like being an artist has taught you maybe a different way to operate a business and interact with people and go through processes. It's not necessarily like you're making art, but you're like approaching things as an artist and with that mindset.
Yeah, it's a different approach. And I mean, the other thing with art is you're trying, when you're making something, a lot of times, sometimes you're just making stuff because you're making stuff. Art's not always so fancy as it's this up on a pedestal. A lot of times you're just working.
Yeah.
You're just working and making it. And, but usually, there's something that you're trying to relate to somebody, or you're trying to get a response from somebody. You're trying to, put a message into something or a feeling or, an idea. And all that kind of relates very much so that, like the way to kind of string it together is that there's intention to the things that we do. And in artwork, when you're making really good art, you're doing it with intention, in my opinion. So even if it comes through naturally, it's that's part of the process that you're intending to do. So
do you look at your bikes as works of art?
Yeah, I definitely do. Especially when customers make really good component selections. We make a wide variety of stuff. But I think that if you look at like the very close details of how they're put together, you can see that they come from a place of that thinking. And then with Mark's just drive for quality and his craftsmanship, they end up there too. So, I mean, if you look at his process, if you look at his welds, you're not really going to find anything wrong with anything. You're not going to find somebody who's doing it any better than he is.
What happens when he makes a mistake?
He gets really pissed off. Yeah.
Just throw it in the trash, or you cut it up, you spare parts, or?
Well, that doesn't really happen.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Wow. He's that good.
Yeah. We don't really have we don't do
That's
factory
cool.
seconds. We usually that happens during the prototype process. So it's the same thing. So it's really interesting because Mark comes from a really different background, and I don't want to tell his story. I want his story to be told by him, but, he's also extremely process driven, but from a completely different perspective than art making practice. In my opinion, maybe not. He needs to say it.
Yeah.
But it works really well because, he's from a machinist and, metal bending background in aerospace, and I'm over here in this like art background, but we're both trying to make a process more refined. So it's really cool because, we have really similar goals, and sometimes we have different ways of thinking about them.
Yeah.
And luckily, rather than being someone who I butt heads with, instead, like we're just two people that like we seem to work really well and kind of inspire like good ideas back and forth. Yeah. So the end result is a better product.
Are good.
Yeah, it's really fun, man. I mean, he's fun to work with, and it's really cool to get to contribute ideas and then see them built really well.
Yeah.
Like that's so cool. Like, I mean, it'd be such a different experience if like I was so invested in all this like quality, but then the end product just wasn't up to snuff. That'd be such a bummer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I was wondering because there's a lot of bike websites, but I for whatever reason I keep coming back to yours. Maybe because they're made in Texas and I'm a Texan, or made in USA. All of them are made in USA. But yeah, they're just beautiful. I mean, they just really like.
Thanks.
I don't know. There's something about them. Very clean, simple. I like simple. You don't need a lot of busy.
Right.
I don't. I like a good clean bike. Looks solid, well built, nice lines. Just sexy. You know?
That's pretty much what we're after in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay, good. I nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we want to make bikes that are, they're timeless. If you look at it now, you're going to look at it in 10 years and be like, damn, that's a nice looking bike.
Well, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about CHUMBA's process of like, since you're a small shop and you got one guy doing frames, what frames, like, how do you decide that, okay, we're going to do this frame?
Right.
And I mean, you can't make every single bike. So how did y'all get to where, okay, we're only doing steel and tie, and these are the bikes that, maybe this is a really big question, but.
Well, it is, but it'd be fun to talk about for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess to start it off, like, why did we decide to do steel and tie? I mean, we really wanted to make bikes in metal, and we wanted to make bikes that, first and foremost, that are durable. And I don't believe that aluminum bike is durable, and I don't believe that a carbon bike is durable. I've had every frame material and ridden it extensively over the course of my riding, and how I've felt on each of those materials beyond just like the ride quality, but like my trust in those components, the frame as the component is different for each material. So with steel and titanium, there's a lot more trust. And if we're going to be bold enough to tell people that you can do something like Tour Divide or, bike across Thailand or into the sands of the Sahara from Morocco and like back through the Atlas Mountains, like one of our team riders did a couple of years ago. If we're going to say that you can do that on our bikes, like they better be able to do it. And so I don't, of course, aluminum bike could do it, a carbon bike could do it, but you wouldn't be able to trust in it the same way, in my opinion.
Well, I think that's a valid point. When I went to the place that we don't speak of, because I always forget what it's called, a pony wrestler. It's carbon fiber bike. And it was definitely like something I was thinking about. Like, this is not,
I don't want to think about that.
Way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And if something, and I've had 2 carbon frames break in the past, just through regular riding, not even crashing or anything. So I'm actually, my seat stay on that pony wrestler broke like the first month I have it, and they warranted or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's a legitimate concern that you have to be aware of.
Yeah. Like, I think one of the differences, because we're such a small company, if we get a warranty, it's like the worst day, man. Like, we feel like shit.
That was my next question is...
Yeah, when that happens, we feel like shit. Like, so we don't want that to happen.
How often do you feel like shit?
Not often, man. It's pretty freaking awesome. Yeah, I mean, we've had 1 titanium warranty over hundreds of frames in the last 5 years, and it was repairable, like a slight crack. It was probably just like a defect in the tube. And we've had, I think in the last 5 years, we've had 5 steel warranties, and that's it.
Wow.
And those are all on mountain bikes too.
And that's one nice thing about that material too, I'm assuming, is like sometimes you can fix them.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes you can fix this stuff, and the big thing is that none of those warranties were catastrophic. We've never had a catastrophic failure, it's just, talk to any mountain bike company, ask them how many frame failures they've had in the last 5 years over the course of a couple thousand bikes, and I'd be interested to see what they tell you.
Well, that could get into another interesting side of the industry that we touched on earlier, where it's a different business model.
It is a different business model, yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
We kind of sit between a custom and a production company.
Right.
And this is kind of why we can have this opinion too about it. There's all different ways to build a bike company, and there's not like one right or wrong way to do it. This is the way we chose to do it.
Yeah.
But what seems to be the most pervasive strategy has been to put a lot of energy into designing a good product, outsource that product to be made overseas, get a large quantity of it, and try to move it before it's landed. And then hope that goes well.
Yeah. I've been on, well, just to speak to that real quick, because when I had my golf store, I know exactly what you're talking about. They come a year to 6 months before the product is even made, and they're like, hey, this is what we're going to be coming out with. We need you to go ahead and commit.
Right.
And so the manufacturer has already sold pretty much everything. And then they just push it onto the retailer.
It's a huge struggle for dealers to deal with, especially small shops. So,
yeah, it's a big problem that I really don't like. So
yeah. Brick and mortar shops have definitely, I think you've definitely seen like a big decline in the amount of shops out there.
Yeah.
Stocking these massive bikes over the course of time. But, it's not like a wrong way to do it. It's just not the way that we want to do it. It's far from me to tell anybody how to run their business. But, the industry overall, to me, is, it's definitely one where like people are building really cool stuff. We're building interesting products. I've seen plenty of things made overseas that are really interesting and compelling bikes. The difference is that we take full ownership of our product. We see it from start to finish. Everything we have has been quality controlled entirely in-house. Like if you bought a bike from us, whether you got it from our dealer or not, Mark or I, or both of us, have had our hands on it. We've touched it, and we've, ensured that bike is in good shape and meant to be out in the world and put through what we built it for. I don't think a lot of companies that are our scale can say that, especially when they're receiving their product in a box and then sending it out in the same box.
Yeah.
So this is not something that we want to do. So our goal is, I guess the other thing to unpack that comes along with that mentality of building a business is that, if you're selling a massive volume of something, you've got your investors saying we need this amount of growth or whatever, and you need to sell the same amount next year, or guess what? They probably want you to sell more next year. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that if your product lasts for 10 years to a lifetime?
That was the point I was thinking while you were talking. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're planned, I'm not going to walk down that path too opinionated.
I mean, we don't even have to talk about bikes, but just the manufacturing industry as a whole.
Exactly. Look at the
we
big picture.
we can talk about American consumerism. Like it goes bigger. It's just like we're used to use it, throw it away, buy a new one, or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And, use it, lose faith in it, sell it while it's used and buy a new one.
Or that.
What happens in the bike industry a lot. And then, all the people buying used bikes, who knows what they're getting. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. And then your warranty is gone.
Right.
Yeah. Once you sell it. So,
yeah. So, I mean, our methodology as a company is we want to build really long lasting, high quality products that people will get, and they'll be so inspired by owning that they'll tell other people to buy them. And the goal is to kind of create little micro communities throughout our customer base of people who are riding our bikes. And then, if you like our bike so much, like there's a good chance you might buy one in one of our other categories for a different style of riding.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, like if you're buying a new race bike from us every year, like something's wrong. Like we're not doing that. We're not doing the job that we set out to do. Like
Well, you don't even have a new race bike for them to buy every year, do you?
No, I mean, oftentimes we wait a couple of years to make revisions, which is pretty standard in the industry. Like they might change paint jobs, but there's not a lot different.
True.
Often.
Yeah.
Usually it's like a 2-year to 3-year run for most things. So, but yeah, it's interesting.
What dictates that? Is it new riding, not riding styles, but like
it's expensive. It's expensive to make new molds for carbon. It's expensive to make new forms for aluminum. It's expensive to redo all the CAD drawings to train the welders and the frame builders to just to do all the manufacturing, all the production. It's expensive. So retooling is a big thing. That in the production industry it's where you can make or lose a lot of your money for sure.
But so for CHUMBA, like you say, okay, the Stella, we're only going to have this for 2 years. Y'all don't do that, do you?
No, we've had the Stella since day one, and we've made refinements to it. But like that's kind of like a cult level bike for us, among our base that I don't see going away anytime soon. But we'll probably continue to refine it over time.
So that's I guess that's where I'm trying to get is like what's driving the refinement? It's new technologies. It's you figure out a better way to build it, or like what's driving the change? Like you have a bike right now, it's freaking awesome. Why change it?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. I think that some of it's, time, like the longer that you're spending with things, and you definitely see, trends in the industry and the way people are riding changing. And sometimes you have to respond to that. Like the Stella as an example, there's not much that we would change, really all the bikes that we've had that we've, released other versions of, it's been really subtle variations, maybe to make it more like increase the compatibility even further, or increase the tire clearances even further, things like that. We put a lot into prototyping and testing each model and putting it through the paces, and that's a big part of what the team does for us is getting their feedback from riding it and then getting them out to go out and actually prove that it can do what we want it to do. So by the time that we go to launch the product, like we're pretty confident that we can keep it around for a while.
So how long would y'all prototype a product?
It really depends on the bike. So like
sometimes they're like, oh man, we need this. And other times like, dude, this is so awesome.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it takes a lot. When we did the fat bike years ago, we probably did like 5 or 6 prototypes, and it was over the course of maybe like 8 months. And then the latest one, the Sendero, I had been thinking about specifically like what I wanted in that bike for over a year. And then, I narrowed it down with Mark and some of the team riders' feedback for sure, like to get the initial prototype planned. And then we wrote it. And because I had spent so much time thinking about it, I think this is kind of where like some of the art making practice falls into it too, because artists spend a lot of time thinking about what they want to make and concentrating on it and building it in their brains before they actually build it. We did that first prototype and it was close and it needed refinement, but it was close. So from there we made 2 more, and then now we have a model. So that one happened more quickly once we started building. But it took a lot to develop it initially and, convince everyone that this was going to be it. Same for the Terralingo. Like we spent a lot of time analyzing that geometry and trying to, with each of the bikes really, but I mean, the Terralingo, the Stella, and the Sendero, in particular, those three models, one of the things we spent so much prototyping in them is getting the compatibility right. So it fits the widest array of cranks, chainring sizes, tire sizes, wheel sizes, fork options. And we don't like saying that our bikes do everything. The goal is to make something that is refined and we know and recommend where it's optimal. But if we're asking you to keep it for 10 years plus, like it's going to need to be adaptable to different terrains and different ride styles. Or, as you grow in your riding, you might completely change what your goals are. And maybe you want to build the bike towards a different purpose. And
absolutely.
If your bike can't do that, then you're buying a new bike. So if we can know where the bikes are optimal, but build them so that they're extremely compatible, it just leaves a lot of options on the table. And what we've found our team does, and what I've done personally quite a bit on those bikes too, is like the Stella Tie, for example. That's the bike that I race cross country geared on and do marathon race on. And then, now I want to do 4 years single speed cross country racing. And now I want to go on a bike packing trip, and I'll put my suspension fork and 27 plus on it. But it's all one frame.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad you brought that up. That was actually, that's one thing that I really like about your company. I know others do that too, have versatility in mind, but in my own life, I try to get the most out of each bike instead of having, I know if I was rich, right, I'd have 20 or 30 bikes, but I'm not. So
right.
I gotta ask my bike to do as much as it can. And I really like that your bikes are made to, like you said, accept all. I mean, whether you want to do single speed or you want to go geared, you want to throw suspension on there, and then tire clearance is a big thing too. Whether like the Stella I was riding today, you said it would do a 29er with what's the clearance on the 29er?
On our Stella Tie?
Yeah,
up to a 3.0.
Oh, that's on a 275 though.
No, on a 29.
No way.
Yeah.
A 29?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. What will it do on a 27?
3 also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it maxes out at 3.
It just wow, that's crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. You just threw in a whole nother wheel tire size combo I didn't know about. But I love that, man, because I'm a big proponent of. I always say it all the time, but I mean, just ride your damn bike.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used to have what I'll call a problem where I would buy a new bike like every 6 months. And that's not an exaggeration. And my local bike shop, I don't think likes me quite as much, but I still buy a lot of stuff, but like my frame doesn't need to change. Like if you have a good frame,
mm-hmm.
it can do, like I've had everything from a 37C tire on there up to a 2.6 inch tire and, 27.5 and 29er. And you can, it's just, your bike can become what you need it to be for whatever you feel like. If you feel like riding this way, or if you're doing an event or based on the terrain that you're doing, and you don't need to have like 10 different bikes in your stable to go and enjoy it.
You can just change some parts. And I mean, the difference though is like as a company, you run the risk of making something that's not good at anything. And so that's part of the process that we like really strive. If we're going to make something that's extremely versatile, how do we make it really optimized at certain things?
That's a good question. How do you do that?
Just a lot of planning and a lot of testing. And the thing is like, you can make a bike that's really compatible. That's a good race bike. A great race bike. I mean, we've got people winning all kinds of stuff on the Stella platform. But then, like we just said, you can also run a 29 3-inch tire on it. No one's probably going to win a cross-country race doing that, but they'll probably have a great time doing the Baja Divide on it.
Yeah.
So and then guess what? When they come home, they can race their bike again. Maybe it's not optimized for riding at 29 by 3.0, but for that trip, they're going to have a good time.
Right.
And then they can come back and make it a race bike again. So, it's important to know like where the bikes will excel the most. And for us as a company, it's important to have bikes that excel in different categories and can kind of like cross-pollinate it being good at some of the other options available too. So,
well, I got away from that question that I asked you earlier about, because we started with tie and steel, and then we were going to talk about the different models that you make and why.
Yeah.
So how many are there right now?
Oh, wow. We have our Terralingua, which is in steel and in tie. Our Stella, which is in tie, or in steel and in tie. The Sendero is new. That's our new mountain bike. The Del Amo, which is our road bike. We have a couple Ursas left that are soon to be out of stock. And then we previously had a couple other models.
Do you want to plug how much those are real quick?
Well, there's one medium left and two extra larges.
There you go.
And they're on sale for $9.99 a frame.
Good deal.
Made in house. It's like about $400 off, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a good.
Get them while they last.
Yeah.
End of an era.
It's a great bike, man. But the thing is, we can't make everything.
That's kind of where I was going with it. It's like, okay, you got Mark. You can only build X number of frames. So,
and guess what? Like that bike should be like $2,000. It's so much more time intensive to make than some of these other bikes. So that has so many braze-ons and so many, it has customized yoke, and the bends on everything to fit on the 29 Plus tires specifically are really specific. So it's all about balance, and it's about trying to find the products that we want to ride and our team wants to ride, and that our customers will hopefully respond positively towards, and focus our energies on that. And all the while kind of refining how we manufacture them. I guess that's something that maybe companies that order stuff overseas might not have to do as much. I don't know. I haven't thought about
streamline their
Yeah, maybe
offering.
They can have a larger workflow or a larger range of offerings because, they can focus their energy on making the design, which maybe is a boon for them. But I like the idea of having like a really concise, refined grouping of offerings. And I think that my partners do too. So that we're kind of presenting like something that's been really like honed and specific. So yeah, what we're trying to do is have a gravel bike in steel and in tie that can also be utilized for cross racing. We've got a lot of people on our team and customers racing it on cyclocross too. Mountain bike and steel or in tie with the Stella that is designed to be a cross-country endurance race bike, and is also a phenomenal ultra race bikepacking bike. And now that we can fit even larger tires, arguably a really good touring bike as well. We've had a lot of customers, build it as a bike towards bikepacking and touring as well, for sure, not just ultra racing. And then on the Sendero, something that's more trail specific, and frankly, like we're seeing a big growth in the industry, I think, in bike packers gravitating towards trail bikes too, because not everybody's out there to like set a record or win something. Some people just want to have fun. And we have to have bikes that are fun,
Yeah. I would probably make the argument that most people are out there to have fun.
Oh, I think so.
There's like the top level athletes, but I draw a lot of inspiration from them, and I'll think about Alexandra when I'm on a ride. I was thinking about her all day today whenever I was riding that single speed, and I was thinking, this is the bike she was riding,
right?
Single speed on the Tour Divide with all of her gear over all those mountain passes, and I'm out here in Texas, like getting my butt kicked, But yeah, I mean, I draw a lot of inspiration from people that do amazing things on bikes, but at the same time, like my mode is more just go have fun, like go experience, get on your bike and go ride, just have a good time.
Oh, totally. But remember that a big driving force of the cycling industry has always been racing. So of course, everyone always wants to have fun, but people want to go fast.
Yeah. Well, fast is fun.
Fast is fun.
Yeah.
Fast equals fun. But what comes first, the fast or the fun? I don't know. It's got to be fast to be fun. So
not always.
Not always.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
But fast is fun.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah, I mean, do you think that the like bike packing specifically? I think I mean, obviously with like gravel racing, like fast is big and road and cross country, but like bike packing specifically, do you think? I mean, I don't see a big like race. I mean, you got Tour Divide and Colorado Trail Race and all that stuff, but like, I don't know. I'm just wondering. Like, it seems to me, anecdotally, that most people that bike pack are just going on like camping trips with their bike.
Well, we get a lot of people working with us to do bike packing builds, and one of the questions we get asked all the time is, which of these setups will be faster? And it's not necessarily like they want to set a speed record or race something. So they want to cover a lot of ground. Right. They want advantages to help them cover that ground and be able to enjoy the experience more. So a lot of times if you're building a bike towards being faster, it might actually mean that the bike is built towards being more comfortable. Because over the course of week-long bike packing trip, if your bike's not comfortable and it's just built to be quote unquote racer boy fast, then it's not really serving the purposes of actually making you cover that terrain faster. So we try to find like that blend of performance, comfort, and put it into each bike too.
That's what you got to do, because like I always say, especially on like longer rides, you have to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, you're going to be miserable the whole time. You're not going to be having fun, and you're probably not going to do as much mileage.
Well, and those are specific characteristics that are pervasive in the culture of steel and titanium bikes. So those bikes are meant to be durable and comfortable and fast.
Yeah. Well, I got to hand it to you. I was beyond impressed with the Stella, and I'm not just saying that because you're sitting across the table from me. I mean, it was single speed, just bare bones. I mean, it had a 120 fork on the front. But yeah, like I was shocked because for most people probably aren't aware, but the trails around Austin are all very, very rocky. Sharp rocks, big rocks, little rocks, every kind of rock you can imagine. And I was expecting to get just like hammered on this thing. And I was just, I had a permagrin on the whole time. Like I was just having a really good time. And I still am not quite sure how that bike felt so good, but it did. So congrats, it worked.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I think that it's interesting because the industry is telling everybody, buy a carbon bike, buy this full suspension. But, the reality is maybe that's not what you should be on necessarily.
That's the reality that I'm coming to.
Those bikes are cool and they have a place too. And there's things that you can do with carbon design that you can't do the same way with steel and titanium. So they have a place.
Yeah.
But for our company, like we're interested in the other side of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, just as a rule, I will never bash anyone for riding any kind of bike. You know, I mean,
for sure.
Who gives, go
You're riding your bike. That's the only thing that's important.
That's the only thing that's important. So all I'm ever doing is just talking about my personal,
right.
I mean, we're all on a journey trying to figure out, and it changes. It's like, oh man, I want to try this. I want to, do that or whatever, and that's part of the fun, which kind of goes back to your bikes being versatile.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we should talk about single speed just a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Since you are kind of the single speed guy, I don't know if that's a fair title or not, but you definitely, what'd you say, 6 years you've been riding single speed?
Oh no, my first bike was single speed. So
well, mine was too.
Yeah. No, I mean like my first bike when I actually started like legitimately riding.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been riding single speed bikes since 2001.
Yeah.
So
I've been somewhat vocal about not like any hate towards single speed, just been like no interest in it. Like, like why,
right.
Like when there's perfectly good gears, there's all this, and you're happy. Like, why would you put yourself through the pain and suffering of a single speed?
Well, it's interesting. And maybe you got a taste of it today, but it's maybe not quite as bad as you thought.
That's exactly what I would say. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's trade-offs. I mean, single speed, you're always in the right gear.
I had that exact same thought today.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was going to tell you, never once on this ride did I wonder if I was in the right gear.
Yeah.
I never had to think like,
well, it's all about, it comes back to like having fun. And for me, like single speed is fun because it focuses my riding differently than when I ride with gears. When I ride with gears, I'm trying to make the optimal choices in my selections. And that's great because sometimes I can get an advantage on certain sections and go faster in a flat and a harder gear, or easier on a climb and recover faster at the top. But in the single speed, you're focused on your momentum. You know, if there's a climb, you're probably not lollygagging up, you're charging it, and it feels good. You get to the top and you're like, I just crushed that. That was great. Or I couldn't do it and I had to walk, which happens to me all the time too.
Yeah.
So,
I walked a couple today.
Yeah,
I walked a couple.
It happens.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like with single speed, it's like you either do it or you can't.
Yeah.
And guess what? If you can't, you're probably more likely to go back and try it again until you do get it. And then your riding's going to improve. So whenever I've gone back to riding gears, which has usually been for like, you know, marathon racing, or all my bike packing except for one trip's been on geared setups. And, you know, usually I'll put gears on and train with them before those trips so that I'm, you know, not having a miserable time with my endurance being weak. And it's just like, it's not as much fun to me. So, you know, like single speed is not right for everybody, but I think that there's definitely like advantage for everyone to give it a try at some point, even if you just borrow a bike from a buddy.
Yeah.
Because it just focuses your riding differently. And as a business owner and a new dad and somebody whose life is like really jam-packed, which is mostly my own fault because I try to do too much. Single speed is great because like all I have to do is, you know, once a year I bleed my brakes. You know, every 2 weeks I put some chain lube on, and I just have to pump my tires and keep sealing in there, and my bike sings.
It's always tuned in.
Always ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting because my own, the older I get or the more I've been cycling, like the more I'm looking for simplicity. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the bike packing side, just looking to, you know, get down to the bare minimum of what you need.
Yeah.
And take away all the crap that you don't. And I've tried to do it on my bikes. I try to do it in my life. And so the less crap you have, the more you're able to like stop focusing on the stuff that doesn't matter and just focus on what you're there to do, which is ride your bike.
Yeah. And you get in a single speed and you start looking at the trail different. You know, you start thinking like, what can I do to increase my momentum? How can I get my front wheel around this obstacle so that I'm not slowing down, you know, before I start this climb?
Yeah.
You know, how can I take this corner without braking so that I can be ready for the climb behind it? And then all of a sudden you've done that section faster than you've ever done it before.
That's what I was about to say is we averaged 9.5 miles an hour today, which I don't have my other bike here to know what I would have done it in, but like I was under the impression that I was going to be super slow. Like,
yeah,
I didn't have a number in my head, but I was just like, it's going to be slow. There's only one gear, so it's going to top out. It's not going to be able to go as fast. And then I'm not going to go as fast up the climbs because it's not geared just perfectly for that. So I was expecting the culmination to be that the overall ride would be slower. But like I kept telling you on the ride, it's like, this thing's like a rocket ship, man. I mean,
yeah, it's fun. I mean,
part of it is less weight.
Yeah, there's definitely less weight. I mean, there's also less like, oh God, is my derailleur going to hit that?
I just run into it anyway,
yeah.
But you know, that's just me.
Yeah, I gotta drop all the single speed memes though. So I mean, you know, the other big one is that you actually do have two gears. You have standing up and sitting down.
Oh, okay. I learned another one today, the 3220, the party gear.
That's the party gear, man.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's where you got to start.
Yeah, you
can do anything with the 3220.
Except for a couple of those climbs.
Yeah, but if you tried them again.
Oh, if I tried them again, yeah. That's the thing is like, I could totally see myself, like if I had that bike, I would just ride it. Like, I think that would be totally fine. Like riding local trails, riding around town, whatever. Like it's totally fine. I think like if I was going to go on a bike packing trip, I'd still opt for gears. I'm not as badass as some of your riders, but
Alexandra's pretty amazing in that respect. Like she's about to take on the Colorado Trail Race and she's still doing it single speed,
right?
Just like the same bike as Tour de Vive with some different parts and different gearing. I did a section of that trail a year and a half ago, and I did it with gears. And the whole time I was there, I was like, I wish I brought my single speed.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I had to hike a lot. And when I went, there was a lot of wet weather still. There's a lot of mud. So a lot of the climbs just like weren't even an option to try to ride. It was just mud. And so like the whole time I was doing it, I was like, God, this would be perfect for a single speed because it's like you're either on the bike or off the bike.
Yeah.
And with all the gear, you know, I was walking anyways, so I might as well enjoy being on a single speed the rest of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to like, I didn't want to come here today and have a miserable time, obviously. Like we were going for a bike ride. And so like I came into it like wanting, like excited to try it. But I was also like, kind of, I was skeptical. That's a good way to put it. I was like, all right, how is this going to go, man? It's kind of funny, like that I haven't ridden one before, but I haven't. Yeah. And it was not bad.
They can still be like,
I'm upgrading my status on single speeds to they're not that bad.
They're not that bad.
They're okay. Hey, that's a step in the right direction.
Agree to disagree, but it is a step in the right direction. You've taken the first step. But the thing with single speeds too is that I think a lot of times people forget like you can change your gear. You just have to do it before you start riding. And you know, so like there's certain trails where I'll put on a harder gear because it's, you know, flatter, and I know I can, you know, get more out of that ride if I'm in a harder gear. And there's rides where, you know, I want it to be easier. And, you know, if it's more challenging and technical and I have a lot of climbing, you know, you might change it ahead of time. So, so alongside of that, you know, the bike needs to be easy to do that too, in my opinion. So that's one of the reasons we use sliding dropouts instead of like eccentric bottom bracket.
Yeah. What kind of riding are you doing these days?
Mostly trail riding. For the vast majority, mountain biking locally here quite a bit. And then I'll be preparing to do a bunch of cyclocross racing on my Terralingua Titanium in a couple months.
Nice. How have you liked the Austin cycling scene?
Oh, it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's great.
Tell me about it. So, I mean, I live 2 hours away.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear how is it different? I'm interested in too.
What do you mean different and what do you mean?
Well, you asked like, how's the Austin cycling scene? But I mean, I think there's also like there's like a Central Texas cycling scene too, which you're a part of.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I am. I mean, I've never ridden, so we rode from your house down the road and then we hopped on some trails and we were networking through trails and paved paths. And I mean, you took me all over. But it's just cool because like you're always close to town, so you can go grab a taco like we did, or whatever. You just hop out and go for a ride, which was really neat. But like, yeah, my experience with Austin is I just come and ride the trails and then I leave, and so I haven't really experienced the culture of the cycling community here. Right. I hear good things, but I don't know.
It's extremely diverse in terms of like the styles of the riding, of the culture. Like you have like the Thursday night social ride that's like a couple hundred people might show up and do a critical mass around town, and every type of bike is represented there probably. And then you've got, you know, the driveway series and a large like demographic of road racers, a lot of like kind of underground cyclocross pop-up races where you might find anybody from like a basket bike and a button-up T-shirt to, someone on like a $7,000 race bike in the same event.
Wow.
And then, as far as trail network, I mean, we have a phenomenal trail network that is maintained by a lot of incredible individuals, and the Austin Ridge Riders does a great job advocating for for the trails here and keeping them open and helping to maintain them. But I mean, if you look at Austin and you point your finger anywhere like within like a 10-mile radius outside of town, you're pretty much going to find a trail system. Like, I think we probably have more. I'm not sure if we have more options than anyone else in Texas, but I feel very privileged by the amount of options and choices that are available. The benefit for me is living in South Austin. There's quite a bit that I can just ride to, but if I want to get in my car, within 20 minutes, I can be at all kinds of different trails in a short amount of time in any direction that you can look at on the map. So it's really fun. It's a good place to build bikes because we have everything from like the ride that we did today, which was fast, flowy. There's definitely some rocks, but you can float through most of the rock gardens, to things that are extremely challenging, like you have to really spend time to build up to do a certain feature and get your nerve up to accomplish it. Downhill rock ledge lines and dropping big drop offs, and where we kind of miss out is on a lot of purpose built trails. So there's not a lot of like super groomed clean stuff. Like really all we have for that is walnut, and that's great that we have that, and it's got some cool trail features on it for sure. But we have like a lot of really challenging trail here with every type of terrain thrown in, from kitty litter over top of hardpack to big gnarly limestones slipping and sliding everywhere. And
I definitely think riding here makes you a better rider.
It's
because the trails are challenging and the risk reward is pretty, like if you fall, you're either going to be in a cactus or on a rock or something, so, I mean, you want to get it right.
I mean, my personal riding like improved so much from coming here. And like, I thought previously that I was like a decent rider. And like, if I look back at myself 9 years ago, like, I'm not saying I'm an amazing rider, but I'm a lot better than I was.
Well, hopefully we're all progressing.
Yeah, we're all progressing. That's what it's about. And I mean, you can do that no matter where you live, but if you have interesting stuff around you and you take advantage of it, it's really cool. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, the people too, like the more people that you're around that can influence, and I mean, just watching someone do something, you're like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. And it kind of helps. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, how I perceive the bike culture in Austin, or how is it in College Station?
Well, I'm kind of curious because I mean, my experience with bike culture throughout Texas, not in Austin, is basically from doing like the cyclocross race series and from doing the mountain bike race series and the marathon series and those kind of events, and seeing people who come from all over Texas and even outside of Texas to those events and seeing the community there. But there's a lot of people who aren't racers who don't go to those events. So what's it like in your neighborhood?
Not great. I mean, in terms of like, where I live, the cycling community is not very strong. Like, I do most of my rides solo. Part of that is just personal preference. Like, you deal with people all day. Like, I'm, in my real job, and you're just, whatever. You're just like, you got family, you got work. And for me, a lot of times, like, going to ride a bike is my therapy. It's my stress relief, and go out and just enjoy, So, that part of it is just like a personal preference, but I've talked about on the podcast, it's super weird. Like, I think, Carrie Snow that lives in College Station. We got Billy Rice and Jose Bermudez and Luke Conlon. And we have like a bunch of bike packers. We just had a couple of guys that did a lot of the Tour Divide Trail. So it's weird. We don't have like a super strong overall bike culture other than a really big roadies like group. But like, for whatever reason, this small town or semi-small town of College Station, Texas, there's like some pretty well-known bike packers, and I still haven't figured out how that came to be. I don't really know how, but it's kind of cool. It's cool that there's people I can ring up and go do trips with, or or just get inspired by, I mean, if it wasn't for like the people in the community, like for me, finding out about bikepacking happened at the same time, like Ride the Divide came out. And I had friends that started to get into it, and I'm like, holy crap, this is perfect, because I'm an outdoors person. That's where I'm happy. And riding my bike, that's where I'm happy. So put them together and boom. But I've never been in a city where there's like a really vibrant bike culture, where like you're talking about, you show up to Critical Mass and there's 100 mass and there's like 100 or 200 people, and you might have like a lowrider bike and a road bike or whatever it is. Like, I think it sounds awesome, but I've just never lived in an area that has that.
A really good example here that I've seen that gets a unique variety of people to has been Coffee Outside, which is something that I've been seeing pop up throughout the country more and more. We've had a base of people, doing it here and organizing it here for a good while. And they do a great job. Every week they call out, where they're going to meet, and, anybody can show up, and it's not like a big event where you have to perform. You just show up, make coffee, and shoot shit with people, and then you go to work. But it's just a cool opportunity, because you get around, maybe some like-minded people, but maybe people from different backgrounds that you might not otherwise get to meet at like a race necessarily. Yeah. And then who knows? I mean, you can, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to create the culture, but I know that like there's a lot of people doing stuff, and, whether it's like you're surrounding yourself with, as a volunteer through trail building and connecting with other trail builders, maintenance is a great way to build a community, but some of these like more low key events too, where you're just meeting around the common thing of like a love for bikes, but there's no qualification to perform in any way.
Absolutely.
Is a good atmosphere to just like get things kicking off, I think too. So,
well, I got to ask you, what is your favorite CHUMBA bike? I know that's like asking you to pick your favorite child, but
yeah, totally.
I think it's a fair question.
Well, I mean, I've had all of our bikes.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, right now I have 4. I'm trying to pare it down, because it's like I got, I can only afford to have 2.5. So,
2.5. But hey, I'll pitch in on the third.
Okay.
We'll each own half a CHUMBA.
Yeah. I mean, it's really about like, for me, what I'm riding at the time I'm riding, which I don't mean like that day. I mean like, like in cyclocross season, it'll be my Terlingo. It'll be my favorite bike, because I'll be spending a lot of time on it. I love that bike.
Yeah.
But right now is definitely the Sendero. I'm so excited about that bike. It's just like, I was talking with a friend of mine, Conrad, who has one also. And he made a comment, I don't even look at other bikes anymore. And it's like, I was thinking about it, it's like, that's what I was hoping would happen for me with that bike, was that I would be so excited about riding it that I'd think about maybe that's enough for me. And it's just like, it's been a blast. It takes everything I'm good at and makes me better at it. So.
How long has that bike been in your lineup? I know it's relatively new.
It's pretty new. I mean, I've been thinking about it for over a year, and we've been prototyping it, and then we've had it available to market for maybe 3 months, I think. And we haven't done a press release for it yet. We're about to. We've only done like a soft launch on it.
We just did it.
Boom, press
release. Done. See? Easy.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, another thing that I thought was super interesting. So you were riding a steel Sendero, and I was on the Thai Stella.
Mm-hmm. And they're both my bikes.
Yeah. So, I mean, my brain goes to, all right, obviously titanium is the best, right? That's what everybody says. And you can have whatever CHUMBA you want.
Right.
So, and you chose steel. So I'm really curious why.
Well, the really cool thing about it is that because of what we're putting into the bikes and how we're manufacturing them, one is not necessarily better than the other one. So what's interesting is like the industry overall is set up to tell you that like if you're paying more, the bike is better. Mm-hmm. But really like with the steel and titanium, it's just two different materials. And like a really high quality steel bike is not anything like a $300 steel bike. It's a completely different machine. So the bike that I'm on as the steel Sendero is every bit as refined in terms of like the quality as the titanium Stella is. But they're two different ride qualities for sure. So I find that the steel is a lot more compliant overall, and that the titanium is compliant but rebounds faster. So it feels maybe a little bit zippier, a little racier normally. So when I've been really focused on racing as my goal, I've usually kind of gravitated towards the Thai bike. And then when I focus more on riding as my goal, I've gravitated more towards the steel.
So it's just a little more comfortable.
It's a little more comfortable, but I mean, the type of riding that I generally like, when it's like, hey, I have time to go do whatever I want, and I'm going to go ride my bike, I generally go to our, Barton Creek Greenbelt, and I ride really bumpy, rocky stuff with lots of ledge lines and downhills, and the whole thing's a rock garden. So the added comfort of the steel for me is great, but then also the compliance, like coming off of those drops, means that the bike's just going to track really well and not bounce me off my line. And not that the Thai would, but it's just different. The steel just handles it just flows through that stuff a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
So
what's the price difference between the two?
Price difference is really depending on the bike between I think it's like close to $900 to $600 between the two materials, depending upon which model steel bike you're buying from us. But the titanium material itself is just like the material itself is more expensive. The advantages to Thai are that it's extremely dent resistant. Like, the fatigue strength on it's incredible. It stays aligned really well, because it has a great memory too. And it's really light. And so like the biggest difference between the two bikes is that a titanium mountain bike versus a steel mountain bike is going to be at least a pound lighter. So like our Stella compared to my Sendero there, the Stella Thai is a pound and a quarter lighter. Compared to a Stella steel, it's a pound lighter. So, that metric is more important if you're racing.
Yeah.
And less important if you're trying to like stay comfy.
Yeah. Or if you got 20 pounds of gear on your bike and you're like,
well, that's the thing though, is when you put 20 pounds of gear on the bike, the stiff bike becomes even more compliant. So like the Thai bike with gear in it is awesome. Like it turned into like such a smooth bike. And I'd be interested to like, if someone asked that question to Alexandra, because this is her first time doing like extensive riding on titanium. She's always been on really steel bikes prior to my knowledge. So it'd be really cool to get her feedback on what that experience was like.
Yeah. Hopefully I get a chance to interview her again. I've reached out to her and let her know, just express that I would really enjoy the opportunity whenever it presents itself again to talk to her. I think I could sit down and talk to her all day long. It would just be, it would be a treat. What do you think, or what is CHUMBA trying to do well? Like, what do you think that you do better than anybody else, or maybe don't even compare to anybody else, but like, what are y'all really trying to excel at?
First and foremost, like the most pervasive thing that we try to do with everything is quality. Like not just like the end product, not just any one part of it, but like everything. So with the materials that we're using, the craftsmanship put into it, the process, like every single part of what it takes to make the company image go out there, to you contacting us, to us building your bike and getting it to you, we want it to be of the highest possible quality that we can deliver. So that's something that I don't know if every company puts before making a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to be profitable, but we don't want to do it we have no interest in being profitable at the cost of making a subpar product.
Well said.
Yeah.
That's a good place I think that's a good place to end it. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted anything new in the works or anything like that you wanted to talk about?
Not really. I mean, the newest things we have are the Del Amo road bike, which is pretty cool. We've never had a road bike before.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
Yeah, we're just wanted to make something like really clean and sexy.
Yeah.
You know, we had a couple team riders that wanted to race road, and well, they might as well do it on a CHUMBA. So, and Mark has made, you know, lots of custom road bikes in the past. So it wasn't a real complicated decision to try to add that in. And it's been really fun having it as another option. So, yeah, so that's been really fun. And then the Sendero Steels are our other new bikes. So those are our two most recent things. A little teaser I'll drop though is that we're soon to be releasing pre-orders on an updated Stella tie.
Oh,
yeah. So we'll be.
Are you taking pre-orders yet, or you're about to?
Well, I mean, we haven't officially. This is the most official thing I've said about it, but we do have customers who have been talking with me, and I've got a short list. But
that's right, folks. Come to Bikes or Death for all your bike industry scoops.
Yeah, but soon we'll be posting up on our site and Instagram and all that, and what the changes will be.
Yeah, so you don't want to talk about what all the changes are yet?
They're going to be really minor.
Yeah.
It's really just like...
Just goes back to the twinking that you're talking about doing.
Yeah, it's like subtle refinements that we've learned through the other bikes over the course of time. And, you know, we've been building on the Stella platform for 5 years, over 5 years, 5.5 years. And yeah, we just, we had opportunity to make a cool revision. So we want to change some simple things on it that we think will benefit people.
Yeah.
Make it really fun.
Exciting. Well, I love everything that you guys are doing. I love what y'all stand for. I like that y'all work with and sponsor a variety of riders, and that your bikes are just simple and useful machines that look fucking sexy.
Thanks, man.
So yeah, man, keep it up. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today and to show me around Austin, a little bit of a different side of Austin that I haven't seen before, and on a single speed.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Let me know if you want to ride it again.
I would like to ride it every day. Do y'all have people like stop by the store? Do y'all have like store hours, or like if people want to reach out to you, like what's the best way to?
Yeah, we totally welcome factory visits all the time. You know, we're generally there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It's best to hit us up ahead of time, make sure we're there. We step out a lot to take frames to paint or go get materials or go get tacos most of the time. We should probably just close down 12 to 1. Mark calls it the taco hour.
The taco hour, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have people stop by all the time, and it's really fun to kind of share the process of what we do. So we can literally take you back and show you the machines that are building it and kind of demystify what it is to make a bike, but also kind of maybe blow your mind with all the steps that go into it. So
I think just blow your mind as to like how much y'all do from a limited space. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's a rinky dink thing, but like, I mean, how big is that?
It's just under 2,000 square foot.
Oh, it's 2,000. Okay. Yeah.
It's a big open work environment that has everything laid out. You know, all the machines are laid out to be efficient.
Yeah.
You know,
well, that's what I was getting at. Yeah. It's like, it's amazing. Like the simplicity doesn't just stop with, oh, your bikes are well made and they're simple and this is what you're getting. But it's also like your business model where it's two guys. I mean, I know there's 4 partners in the business, but it's mostly 2 guys that are there on the day-to-day and operating in a very efficient manner, it appears, to produce a high quality product.
really proud to say that we are efficient. I mean, I think our turnaround time, I think, is totally acceptable for a maiden house bike that's pretty much made to order in most cases. And I'm extremely responsive to emails. Like, I answer every single email. I try to look at every single social media comment. I do all the posting on that. Like, I want to be present for as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And
it's a full-time job.
It's a full-time job, but
it's a fun one.
Yeah. I mean, all four of us are passionate about it. So it's like, we're all doing it for the right reasons, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, more power to you guys. I'm looking forward to everything that y'all have coming. And yeah, thanks again for letting me come and talk to you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Okay. Thanks again, Vince. Appreciated it. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. It was a really neat opportunity to go hang out with him in Austin, chill at his house. I rode his bike. He showed me around some trails, and then we recorded a podcast in his home. So it's really neat. I love getting to know my guests through riding bikes and just hanging out. So anyway, it was cool. It's my preferred way to do it. So truth time. My fancy new digital recorder that I was talking about before the show, I'm still learning how to use it, and I just finished like recording an intro and outro, and I popped it in Audacity to start editing it, and it sounded like shit. So this is take 2, and because it's take 2, and I got other shit to do. I'm not going to talk a lot. I'm just going to tell you that if you want to support the show, I've made it really easy for you. Go to bikesfordeath.com. On the right-hand side, you'll see a couple links. One is a Patreon link. That's great if you want to support the show on like a monthly basis. It doesn't matter if it's $1 or $10. Everything goes directly to the show. The other thing is you'll see a Amazon affiliate link. If you click it, bookmark it, and use it every time you shop on Amazon, I'm going to get a little cut. It doesn't cost you anything. So far, I've made like $40, which is pretty cool. And I want to, more of that. That's please and thank you. Yeah. Also, hit that store button. Right now we have just stickers and patches, but I've got one of my listeners have reached out to me, Sean. Hey, Sean, appreciate it, dude. Sean reached out to me and just offered to help. He's like, hey, man, what can I do to help the show? I basically took him up on his offer. I do have a lot going on, and just producing audio and keeping up with guests and everything. It's a lot to juggle. So the exciting thing is that he is like taking on the whole task of merchandise. So, like shirts and hats and coffee cups and whatever we're going to do, like he is kind of taking that ball and running with it. So he's currently working on it. We've already had some great conversations and emails kicking around ideas and just, getting it ready. So that is very forthcoming, and I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. I really want some of the stuff that he's like sent me. I'm like, yes, order that. I want it, so I'm getting psyched. So thanks again, Sean, man. It's great to have you on the Bikes for Death team. Right now there's 2 of us. The last way that you can support the show, and it's kind of crazy, is if you are buying or selling real estate, send me an email, bikes@bikesfordeath.com. In my real life, I'm a real estate agent, and it's very common in our market to send referrals to other agents for people that who are looking to buy or sell a home. It doesn't have to be just in America. It's actually anywhere in the world. So if you live anywhere in the world and you are buying or selling, shoot me an email, and I'd love to help you out with that. It would be a great way to support the show, kick a few dollars my way. It's something I do on a daily basis anyway. So it makes a lot of sense. I know it's like pretty outside the box maybe and non-traditional, but in an effort to keep this show free from advertisers and sponsors, which, I get it. I know why people do it. It's hard. It's harder to like beg for money. It's easier to go to a company and say, hey, look at all my numbers, look at all my reviews, look at and give me money. I'll talk about whatever you want. Just give me the money. Right? So I could do that, but I'd rather it would just be me saying whatever I want to say, interviewing whatever guest I want to interview, and that's it. Simple, clean, easy. But in order to do that, I got to think outside the box, and I need you guys to support the show. So that's it. I hope you all have a great week. In the meantime, Go ride your damn bike.